Kyo is planning to go to Hawaii. I hope Grandma will come too. I was looking forward to the wedding of my grandson, Kei. I, my husband Yuji, my son Shita, and my wife Mariko are planning to attend. Finally, the day of departure has arrived. We were carrying a big suitcase and were at the airport where many people were. Here. Tickets for the whole family. My wife Mariko said as she took out the tickets. My husband Yuji. I took my hand out, following my son Shita's example. However, nothing was put in my hand and the tickets were gone. I looked at Mariko's face and she grinned. She said, "Oh. There are only tickets for 3 of us. What does that mean?" I didn't understand at all. The 3 of them laughed at me and then quickly left. I sat down on a crooked chair alone, carrying my suitcase. Is this really okay? Did I do something terrible? I had made so many preparations and was looking forward to it so much. I felt pathetic. Sad, painful. My head was filled with such emotions, and before I knew it, tears were streaming down my face. The next day, the 3 of us arrived at the wedding in Hawaii. What we saw was a venue with nothing prepared. We confronted the priest who was there and he said, "We're not going to have a wedding." Meanwhile, at that time, my name is Kinoshita. I got Koki a few years ago, and before I knew it, I was 72 years old. Fortunately, I haven't had any major illnesses and I've been healthy so far. I wonder if the secret to my health is the muscle training and running I do every morning and evening. In fact, I've been doing judo since I was a child, and I was a rare female judo player in the 1960s. I'm not proud, but I think I was pretty healthy at the time. After graduating from high school, I chose to pursue judo and devoted myself to practice and matches every day. I didn't just stay in Japan, but sometimes went overseas to compete. Are you Japanese? My future husband, Yuji, happened to call out to me at a Japanese craft store near where I was staying. At the time, I was a salaryman working overseas. I never had a chance to talk to men in my private life. I remember being so excited that I couldn't speak well. After that, we continued our long-distance relationship for several years, and then he proposed to me. He said, "I always lose to your throws, but I want to become strong enough to protect you. Would you like to walk a new path with me?" Quote. Those words made me decide to retire from judo. After that, Yuji returned to Japan, and we got married soon after. I found out just before we got married that Yuji worked for a famous large company that everyone knows. He went to work early in the morning and returned home late at night, leading a busy life. On the other hand, I quit judo and am a woman with no redeeming features. I have never worked. I don't think I can brag about my sympathy because I've only done judo. I'm not good at housework either. I wonder if I'm worthy of him. Even though such worries crossed my mind every day, Yuji seemed to understand my feelings and would say kind words to me every time. I can do my best because I have Kaoru. I never thought that such a great person would walk with me into the future. When my son, Shita, was born at the age of 22, my happiness grew even more. Although Yuji was busy, he always valued his family. On weekends, he would take Shita to various places to play. He often took him to eel and tempura restaurants. He would sometimes give me gifts of accessories because he worked hard at housework. Yuji's work was going well, and he was on the road to success and living a happy life. But it didn't last long. When the bubble burst and the economy suddenly cooled down, Yuji's behavior began to change. The atmosphere in the company is also tense. I'll see you later. At first, he would just complain. But it gradually became anger, and eventually he started to direct it at me too. You can't understand my struggles. You're just sitting at home while I'm working. I endured it in silence. Because I thought it was inevitable considering the pressure of Yuji's work. Then one day, it was the left battle. He told me to go to a local dead person. Yuji's voice as he said this was clearly mixed with fatigue and irritation. I was too scared to ask him, but I guess he was removed from the world of the dead. When Yuji started to take the drug, the distance between me and Yuji grew. At first, we would call each other or visit each other at the drugstore, but gradually the number of times decreased. While I was in the drugstore, Shota grew up and quickly became a member of society. Eventually, Shota married Mariko, a colleague at work. They started living together in my house. When my grandson was born, the house was filled with laughter again. Of course, my son was cute, but I never thought my grandson would be so cute. I would do anything for Kito. The once dark house became bright, and I enjoyed my new life with my family. Looking back, this may have been the last fun memory I had with my family. Things changed again after Yuji finished his drugstore and returned home. The white stood out in the eyes of God, and Yuji's former blue-hairedness had faded a little. However, his attitude had become even colder and sharper than before. The house has become much livelier while I was away. He smiled and stroked Kito's head, but there was something condescending about the way he looked at me afterwards. It's just your imagination. You're just a little confused because the atmosphere is different after coming back after a long time. You'll soon be able to get used to a lively life, I told myself. But it was not my mistake. Since then, Yuji has started to say things that look down on me. You should have studied a little too. A high school diploma is useless in this house. Don't you know that? You need a lot of money after all. That's right. Yuji has started to talk about my academic background in everything. Yuji graduated from a prestigious university, and Shida and Meiko also graduated from fairly well-known universities. I'm a high school graduate. You're much cooler for working hard at judo than at university. Where did Yuji go when he once said that to me? At this time, I was already over 50 years old. There's no way to change my academic background now. Moreover, at first it was only Yuji, but before long Shota and Mariko started to behave in the same way. Mom, do you understand the meaning of this document? One day, Shida spread out some work documents and asked me. I shook my head and Shida laughed lightly. Well, this is impossible. Normally you learn it at university, but Mom, it's a study. Mariko also chuckled at those words. Don't say that. Mom is also working hard. It was a line that sounded like he was defending me, but the sarcasm contained in it was clear. That's all a matter of ichija. I laughed it off every time, but something heavy was piling up in my chest. What am I? I felt that I was gradually losing my place in the family. Among them, only Kito was a grandma's boy and never treated me like a horse. I love Grandma. How many times have I been saved by Kito's smile as he hugged me and said that? When I started going to school, I couldn't fit in with the class and for a while I was on the verge of not going to school. What if that makes your internal score worse? You're a man, but you're so soft. Yuji was so merciless. And Futo and Mariko didn't even try to avoid it. Well, if you push yourself too hard in this mental state and your heart breaks, it's all for nothing. If I say that, then the anger is directed at me. That's why high school graduates don't understand the importance of internal scores at all. Well, my mother had nothing to do with such things. That's right. And so they all get together and make fun of me again. But as long as Kito was there, it didn't matter. Kito, you don't have to push yourself. You can stay at home until you calm down. If you're worried, Grandma will follow you to school. I wanted to be by Kito's side, even if it was just me. I remember how cheap it was when we had that meeting, or when he started going to school again. After that, Kito grew up quickly and graduated from university in no time. I'm going to live abroad after I graduate. I remember feeling happy when I heard that, but also feeling very lonely. And now I work as a diplomat at the embassy. Of course, any job is fine, but I was proud that Kito had such a good job. You've really become a great player. As I smiled listening to Kito's story, Shota said with a laugh. Mom, do you understand how important education is? I was at a loss for words when he asked me that. Hearing that, Mariko also said with a mean look. If I had let her take it easy like Mom said, she might have been a good student by now. Yuji, who was there, also laughed softly. After all, our family is about education. We had one person with a low education, but I'm glad that it didn't seem to have been passed down to anyone else. Such family words pierce my heart like sharp needles. With Kito gone, my position in our family became even more negligible. They always talk about my education and make fun of me. A high school graduate wouldn't understand anyway. How many times have I heard this? It's not like I was playing around without going to college. I was just doing judo and being a merchant. In the case of the three of them, it was just studying. Isn't it okay for different people to work hard at different things? Is being highly educated really that important? I asked myself this every day. But the three of them were getting more and more aggressive. They wanted to buy clothes even though they were being supported by me. I couldn't even work. Gradually, I wasn't allowed to do even the bare necessities of shopping or a little entertainment. And that's not all. You idiot. Even such direct words were used every day. And it was around that time that Mariko started to get sick more and more. I nursed her hard. Inevitably, I spent more time with Mariko. The words they said to me were sharp. This is not my favorite taste, but really, it's not right. I told you to clean up here, right? I'm really getting sick because of someone. Mariko is just tired, so she can't afford it and she takes it out on me. I told myself that and gritted my teeth. My only relief was the occasional phone call or email from Kito. Busy but rewarding work. Fresh and fun life abroad, and occasional happenings. Listening to such stories, I naturally smiled. How is Grandma doing? Are you doing well even though I'm gone? Sometimes my voice sounds gloomy, and Ken asks me with a worried look. What are you talking about? Grandma is doing well, doing well. I ran 2 kilograms today. I didn't want to worry Kito unnecessarily, so I behaved very well. What am I going to do if I make my grandchild worry? I was shaking myself up. Then one day, I received a message from my fortune teller. I've decided to get married. What? I've never shown a woman before, so this is a sudden announcement. What's more, I was even more surprised to hear that the person is a foreigner I met there. Her name is Shika-san, and she's all the way below. As I listened to such stories, joy gradually grew in my heart. I wonder what kind of woman Kito is getting married to. What attracted her to Kito? My imagination runs wild. So, Kyo is planning to get married in Hawaii. Grandma will definitely come too. The moment I heard that, contrary to what Hamaketo said, a negative feeling was born in my heart. Of course, I definitely want to be included in Kito's wedding. But will this family pay for my travel expenses? No, they won't. I can see them saying that they don't have the money to spend on stupid things. They even say that they are strict when it comes to everyday shopping or having tea with friends. Besides, I have been working for so long that I have no savings of my own. If I ask Kito, he might pay for it, but I can't ask my grandson, who is about to get married, to do something like that. I searched for a way to do it, but no clear idea came to my mind. One night, when I was half giving up, we managed to get plane tickets for the whole family for the wedding. Wow, I was honestly surprised. But that wasn't the only thing that surprised me. If you have a good idea, you should take this opportunity to wear a kimono. Is that okay? I couldn't help but look at Yuji's face to see his reaction. Usually, he would definitely object. But a gentle smile appeared on Yuji's face. Kito said that he definitely wanted me to come. I've always been a grandma's boy. My heart danced. I'm usually like that, but I'm family after all. I couldn't contain my happiness and smiles flooded my face. I wonder how long it's been since I've had a kimono made. I think about it when I had a kimono made for me. I remembered when Yuji had it made for me when he was still young. What color should I make it? What pattern should I make it in? While thinking about such things, I remembered when Kito was a child. His small smile. The emotion of the day he was called grandma for the first time. Kito is about to carve out his own path and welcome a new family member. Tears naturally welled up in my eyes. For the next few months, I went to have a kimono made with Shida and Mariko, researched the local temperature and shops, studied the differences between Japanese and Hawaiian weddings, and spent busy days doing various things. But all of it was for my wedding with Kei, and there were days when I couldn't contain my excitement and couldn't sleep. I was so excited about the day that I was immersed in it. And then the day of departure came. We were at the airport with our big suitcases, where many people were changing lives. It's been a while since I've competed in an international tournament. I remember going overseas for judo a few decades ago. Back then, I was all about myself. But I have more things I want to protect now. I feel nostalgic for the different education I received back then, but I once again savor the unparalleled happiness of my grandson's wedding. Here you go. Tickets for the family, says Mariko, taking out the tickets. Following Yuji and Shota's example, I also put my hand out. But nothing was placed in my hand and the tickets were gone. I looked at Mariko's face and she smiled. What? There are only tickets for 3 family members. What does that mean? I don't understand at all. Then Shota burst out laughing in exasperation. No, I don't want people to think that I'm family with a low-educated person like my mother, so I'm embarrassed. Yuji follows behind, grinning. That's right. I'm sorry for Yuto, who is a highly educated elite, if he graduates alone. I'll make sure to tell him that your mother is a set aside, I said, laughing and waving my hand. Wait a minute. That kimono is for me. That's right. I'm sure Shota's suitcase contains the black tome sleeves that were made for this occasion. But when Mariko heard that, she burst out laughing. If you ask my mother, that kimono is not my mother's kimono anymore. I was speechless. The three of them were very excited after the big reveal. After laughing at me, they left with a sigh. I sat down alone in a chair nearby, holding my suitcase. Is this really what I should have done? Did I do something so terrible? I had made so many preparations. I was so looking forward to it. But I can't even buy a plane ticket with my own money. I can't go to celebrate Kito's special day. I feel pathetic, sad, painful. My head was filled with such emotions, and before I knew it, tears were rolling down my face. While I was waiting, many people passed in front of me. This was the airport. Some people even glanced at me, and they couldn't believe that an old lady like me was crying in a place like this. I desperately tried to shake off my tears. But no matter how much I tried to take them off, the tears wouldn't stop. At that moment, my smartphone rang. Maybe it was a call from Yuji telling me that the previous call was a prank. Then, when I looked at the screen, Kito's name was displayed there. I took a deep breath and slid the screen of my smartphone. Oh, Grandma, we're already at the airport. Hearing Kito's humming voice, the pain of the reality I was about to tell him felt even more intense. Actually, I finally explained to Kito what had happened. So, Grandma, you can't go. I'm sorry you were looking forward to it. Please tell me the story again. I apologized. But Kito's voice was bright. I thought so. But it's okay. Grandma. It was all within my expectations. Well, according to Kito, he had predicted all of this. And he had reserved a separate seat just in case. That's why he wanted me to come there. The situation was changing so quickly that it was hard to keep up with my understanding. But it seemed like I didn't have time to sort it out. I hurried to the airport counter as Kito urged me. I completed the formalities there, got on the plane, and somehow managed to head to the destination alone. I left the country alone, retracing my memories from 10 years ago. If I hadn't had that experience, I might have been standing alone at the airport. It's good to experience things when you're young. Thinking about that, I arrived safely one day later than planned. I headed to the arrival gate. When I went outside, there was a slightly tanned Kito and a blonde woman with a carefree look on her face. Grandma, it's been a while. This is my wife, Jessica. Jessica, who was introduced to me, had an overflowing smile on her face. Yes. I've heard about Grandma from Kito. Welcome. I'm happy to meet you. She said this in good Japanese and gave me a hug. Oh, nice to meet you. Yes, I awkwardly returned the greeting. I guess it's a bad thing about Japanese people that I get embarrassed here. Come to think of it, it wasn't easy to become like this even a few decades ago. However, Jessica spoke to Anasaku without caring about me. Apparently, Jessica came to Japan to study abroad when she was a student, and she also worked in Japan. It's no wonder she's good at Japanese. As we talked, I felt like I was opening up to her a little. By the way, I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble. I said that apologetically, and Kito laughed a little sadly. No, I just thought it would be like this. I wanted my grandma to come first. Kito said that, but deep down he must have mixed feelings. On the way to the wedding venue, Kito told me about what had happened up until that day. Right after I invited him to the wedding, he naturally assumed that the four of us would come, including me. Although he somehow knew how I, Kito, had been treated, he seemed to think that he was a grown-up and would do a good job at the wedding. However, he noticed something strange while talking to Shida and Mariko several times during the wedding meeting. Apparently, when they were discussing plans and hotels in Hawaii, the way they spoke was as if I wasn't there. Grandma's here too. When I heard that, Nita and Mariko always corrected themselves as if they were a little flustered. Oh, that's right. Of course there is. Mariko. Yes, of course. I was only listening to that kind of conversation between the two of them. Even though I didn't want it to become a reality, he bought my plane ticket just in case. Kito's plan didn't end there. Apparently, he had prepared 2 wedding venues. If the whole family had come as planned, he would have planned to hold it at the originally planned venue. But in light of this incident, he changed the venue at the last minute. What? Can you do that? 2 venues? Kito answered me with a smile, as I was confused. Actually, Jessica is a wedding planner. She asked me to do something difficult because she is always worried about me. I was struggling between these 2 venues and couldn't decide. So I decided to let fate decide. Jessica said this and laughed playfully. She must have been attracted by this smile. It was such a warm smile that I felt that way instantly. Yes, Grandma. I'm sure it will look good on you. When I opened the bag that Jessica gave me, there was a beautiful pink dress inside. It's beautiful. I couldn't help but let out a voice. Jessica's mother prepared it for me. Now, wear this to the wedding. When she said that and the car door opened, a beautiful sea spread out before me. They're going to have their wedding on the beach here and have a party at a nearby venue. How wonderful. I couldn't help but get excited thinking about the wedding that will be held here in a few hours. After that, Kito and Jessica seemed to have some preparations to make, so I was guided to a room by myself. The sea that can be seen from the window is very beautiful. You can also see the aisle made of colorful petals. I would like to be surprised by such a view, but I have a job that Kito gave me just now. It was a speech at the party. Of course, I hadn't thought about it at all, so I was surprised. But there was no way I wouldn't take it for Kito. Because I can say so many good things about Kito. I thought about the content of the speech while remembering various things that have happened in the past 28 years. As I was thinking about it, the time for the big one came in a flash. The salty breeze touches the skin pleasantly, and the waves gently ebb and flow. It was as if it had come out of a picture book. The blue sky, the clear sea, and the white sand. The beauty of the day seemed to be gently celebrating a special day. The surroundings were filled with guests who seemed to be Jessica's family and friends. I wonder if there are a few Japanese people who are like Kito's friends. At first, I felt a little inhibited, but as the day progressed, I didn't care about that anymore. I was staring at Kent and Jessica standing side by side under the chair-rigged wedding arch. I was in awe of the radiant beauty of Jessica in her white dress. She was a little nervous with the sword standing next to her, but she was smiling happily. I promised to cherish Jessica for the rest of my life. As I heard the words of the vow, a warm feeling spread in my heart. Pure love resides in the eyes of the two people in front of me as they look at each other. I never thought that Kito would meet such a wonderful woman and start a new life like this. I was filled with happiness. And then, the wedding reception at Fatigue Garden Hawaii started. The reception was in English. I didn't know what was going on, but before I knew it, it was time for my speech. I was handed a microphone and received it with a nervous look. An interpreter had even come right next to me. I thought that only people who understood Japanese would understand, so I became even more nervous. When I stood up, my eyes met with Kito and Jessica in the center of the venue. Oh, what a gentle smile. I felt a little relieved by that smile and began to speak. I was grateful to be able to spend such a wonderful time together for Kito and Jessica today, and my voice trembled a little, but I took a short breath and continued. On the day Kito was born, I held his small hand and wondered if there was such a dear person. Watching him grow up, he was always my pride. Seeing Kito's shy smile, my words became even more passionate. Kito was always a kind and intelligent child. When his family is in trouble, he gently lends a hand. Even when faced with difficulties, he responds calmly and sincerely. That's because he continues to care for people and has a heart. I turned my gaze to Jessica. Thank you, Jessica, for choosing to consider. It is my greatest joy to see him realize a new life with you. I hope that the two of you will have a life full of love and smiles from now on. When I concluded with that, the venue was filled with warm applause. The people around me who were listening with simultaneous interpretation were all smiling broadly. Kito stood up, walked straight over here, and gently hugged me. Thank you, Grandma. Tears flowed from my eyes involuntarily at those words. The applause never stopped. Bravo, even such a completion can be heard from somewhere. Oh, how happy. After that, there was a speech from Jessica's brother and a speech from a mutual friend of the two. Even if I don't understand the words, I can feel how much they are together. I looked around as the pleasant background music echoed along with the sound of the waves. Family and friends are smiling and celebrating Father Heart. In the middle of it all, Hito is holding hands with Jessica, looking like the happiest person in the world. I burned that image into my eyes and naturally sighed as I was nearing the end of the fatigue. Hey, how dare you deceive me? A familiar voice echoed through the air. The hall went quiet for a moment. I looked over there and saw Yuji and Shota Mariko, who looked angry. When the three of them found me, they came over to me with a big curtain. You used Kito to deceive us. You've made us embarrassed. Yuji's yelling froze the atmosphere in the hall even more. The guests, including Zatsuki and Jessica, stood up in surprise. According to the three of them, they went to the planned wedding ceremony, but there was nothing prepared there. When they confronted the pastor who was there, he said, "We won't have a wedding." Yuji, furious, approached Jessica's colleague who was there and forced him to find out about the venue. What kind of joke is it that someone like you would come to a place like this without us? Shita also floated a spiritual message to add insult to injury. After all, uneducated people are nothing but a nuisance. I couldn't say anything back. My whole body was frozen and I couldn't move. I might have ruined my precious relationship with Ken because of me. My heart felt like it would burst when I thought about it. But the next thing I heard was Kito's sharp voice. Stop it. You should be ashamed to treat your grandma like that. Kito glared at the three of them. My grandma was the only one who protected me when I couldn't go to school. She was the only one who listened to me. All the old men were talking about their personalities, their academic backgrounds, and things like that. Kito wouldn't stop. My grandma was the only one who gave me 100% of my food. Is academic background really that important? Even though my grandpas have good academic backgrounds, they are much lower than my grandma as people. The three of them are speechless. I'm going to start a new life with Jessica. My grandma is a part of it. But you guys are different. Kito looked straight at Yuji and the others. Please don't get involved in my life anymore. Those words were a declaration of estrangement. What are you saying, you brat? The moment he said that, his body moved on its own. Is this what it means to have your body remember? Before I knew it, I had thrown Yuji with a judo technique. Oh, judo. The voice of someone like that made the venue erupt in excitement, and it was filled with a big bang. Fortunately, most of the guests only understood English. The whole commotion seemed to look like a performance. The three of them were confused and looked at each other with their eyes wide open. While the venue was being ventilated, Jessica's brothers, who had whispered something to them, pulled the three out. At home, the three of them seemed like such absolute beings. Now they seemed so small. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. After that, the tiredness garden regained its calm atmosphere again, and the curtain closed with a warm blessing. Ah, it was fun. I sat on the hotel bed happily, thinking about returning to Japan after this would make me depressed again, but not now. Grandma, I won't live here with you like this. I can't help but feel anxious about returning them to them again. I thought it was for my own good. Kito suggested that. I only brought about preparations for about 4 nights and 5 days, and of course I wasn't prepared for that. That's why I hesitated at first. But when I thought about it carefully, what would I be doing going back to Japan? There's no way I want to go back to my old life. After what happened this time, I'll lose my position. I couldn't imagine how I would be treated. Do I have any attachment to Japan? I thought about it carefully overnight and came up with an idea. I'm going to stay here like this. It might not be bad to throw everything away and start a new life. The next morning, when I told Kito the answer, his eyes lit up. After that, Kito and Jessica took care of everything else, including preparing the necessities and the apartment. I don't know exactly what happened to Yuji and his family after that. But the rumors were that they lost their passports, got pickpocketed, and were kicked and stomped on. I also found out later that Jessica is quite famous among wedding planners, and even though she is young, she seems to be a planner who is constantly being asked to be a planner by many celebrities. Her own wedding. It attracted a lot of attention from the public, and in fact the media followed her closely. I thought there were certainly a lot of photographers, but I thought that's what overseas weddings are like. The wedding was broadcast in real time, and it seems that I was caught on camera throwing Yuji. That was also spread on the internet by Takuma. Yuji and his family were poked with fingers and laughed at in various places. In a way, they became celebrities. I completely forgot about Yuji and his family and enjoyed my new life. The neighbors quickly accepted me. Jessica's friends would come to visit and teach her the tricks of life in Hawaii and introduce her to a Japanese-speaking community. With the support of that community, I started a judo class. It was invigorating to put on a judo technique for the first time in decades. I took a ukemi. Every time the sound of the thumping sounded on the tatami mat, a nostalgic passion and lively energy welled up in my heart. One day, after 6 months of living like that, I received a message on my smartphone. The sender was Shita. I was honestly confused because I hadn't heard anything since that first glance. What was it? I opened it timidly and found a message about the current dire situation of the three of them. Mariko had found gone and they needed surgery. Yuji was starting to show symptoms of dementia and would soon become uncontrollable. Shida said that it would be impossible for him to handle it alone. And an apology for what he had done up until now. Finally, after my mother was gone, I painfully realized that she was my family. I'm so sorry. I want you to come back. That was the message that was written. I remember the terrible things they have done to me. No matter how much they apologize, I can't forgive them right away. But I'm Yuji's wife and Shota's mother. I can't just abandon them like this. With that in mind, I decided to return to Japan temporarily. It's definitely a trap. If you go back, you'll never come here again. Kito is strongly against it. But I didn't think that Shota's apology was a complete lie. I had no basis for it. Maybe it's a mother's intuition. I'm Kito's grandmother, but I'm also Shota's mother. I have a responsibility as a mother. When I said that, Kito didn't say anything. When I returned to Japan, Shota came to pick me up at the airport. It's been a while. I've lost weight. Oh, just a moment. My son looked exhausted when I saw him for the first time in 6 months. There was an awkward atmosphere in the car on the way back. It was the same when I met Mariko back home. I wondered what I should talk about first. It was Shota who spoke first. Mom, I'm really sorry. Shida's eyes were filled with regret, so much so that tears were about to spill out. We had done something really terrible. We had always hurt my mother because of our educational background and position. But when my mother passed away and my family got sick, I finally realized how arrogant I had been. Shida's voice was trembling. My mother always did her best for us. I took it out on my mother just because I wasn't feeling well. I'm so sorry. Mariko's eyes were also filled with tears. I was quietly watching the scene. Memories of her cold attitude in the past and the many times she had hurt my heart crossed my mind. But the two people in front of me seemed to be really trying to change. And I decided to take on the care of Mariko and Yuji. But Yuji is still as overbearing as ever, probably because of his condition. I told him to hurry up and make dinner. He hasn't eaten anything since morning. Yuji just ate a while ago. Are you giving me your opinion? His behavior towards me is getting worse as his dementia symptoms are also increasing. Even though I know it's dementia, being exposed to these words every day is still painful. And even though I'm well trained, it was hard for me to walk while supporting the big Yuji. When I got home from work, Shota helped me as much as he could, but my body had no time to rest at all. It was so hard. Just when I was getting exhausted, Kito and Jessica suddenly came to Japan, probably because they had heard from Shota. Kito saw the situation at home and spoke harshly to Shota. He took advantage of my grandmother's kindness too much. There must be more ways to do it. Kito and Jessica used their natural ability to organize a support system such as visiting nurses, rehabilitation, and daycare services, and they also arranged for me to use the short-stay facility at a nursing home, so I was finally able to rest. After confirming that the situation had improved, the two returned to Hawaii. Mariko's cancer surgery was also successful. For a while after the surgery, she looked like she was in pain because of the wound, but she gradually recovered. Thank you so much, Mom. Ah, these are the words I wanted to hear. I felt that these words would ease my pain, even if only temporarily. Yuji also gradually became calmer through specialist treatment. Then about a year passed. I'm sorry for everything. It was. I think I've always been jealous of you, who has talents to be proud of other than your academic background, even though you are our family. Yuji apologized like this, with gentle eyes reminiscent of when we were newlyweds. I no longer have the right to tie you down. Divorce me. I'll go to a facility. You should be free. I was speechless at the unexpected words. I couldn't accept or refuse on the spot. I'll think about it for a while. That was all I could do to answer. Maybe Shota saw that to push me back. Said with a smile. Mariko is feeling better, and we'll take care of Dad. It's okay now. Take this. I looked at the envelope Shota handed me, and there was an airplane ticket to Hawaii inside. I looked into Shota's eyes without thinking. There was determination in his eyes. Mariko here seems to be the same. The next day, I returned to Hawaii. When I went to the judo class, the students welcomed me warmly. The time I spent standing on the tatami mat and teaching the students was the happiest moment for me. The academic complex that had once tormented me had now faded away. This was because I had reaffirmed how much my experience in judo had helped me in my life and given me the strength to support others. I had not yet come to a decision on whether to divorce Yuji. I was going to think about it slowly from now on. I thought it would be okay for me to make that decision. Then one day, I received some good news. We will have a baby next year. The faces of Kito and Jessica were filled with happiness. At the same time, a warmth spread in my chest. I never thought I would have free time. I'm still going strong, I told myself, clenching my fist tightly.
Suddenly the doorbell rings. When I open the front door, there are a lot of moving companies. They say they are sorry to have kept you waiting with a lot of luggage. I was arguing with the man from the moving company, thinking that no one was waiting and that they had come to the wrong place, when Naoki came into the front door with his mother. From today, this will be my home. That's nice. It's a bit shabby. As soon as they arrived at my parents' house with the moving company, my mother went to Manzokuji first. My husband Naoki is with them. Yesterday, my 87-year-old mother, who I was taking care of, passed away, and I just finished my stay at Suya. I don't even want to see her face now because of Shinro. Open up your room quickly. If you don't like it, get a divorce. My mother and Naoki try to go inside because the room of my deceased mother is open. It's an act that makes me question their nerve. I don't think this parent and child have any consideration for the bereaved family. I tremble with anger at the behavior of these two devils. I suddenly feel ashamed to think that I am a family with such people. Dad, you don't know anything yet? Misa, the daughter, trembles as she looks at the unassuming Naoki and his mother. Yes, Naoki doesn't know anything. He doesn't know yet what's about to happen, that everything will be turned upside down. My name is Kimura. I'm a 55-year-old housewife. I work as a teacher at a local elementary school and am laying off my 87-year-old mother at home. My other family members are my husband Naoki, who is 1 year older than me and whom I married 20 years ago, and my 19-year-old daughter Misaki. I met Naoki at a drinking party that a friend invited me to. It would be called a meeting today. To be honest, I wasn't very enthusiastic, but I had a good impression of Naoki when I met him there. Shosaku is polite, gentlemanly, and friendly, and easy to talk to even on our first meeting. Above all, I had the impression that Naoki was a kind person who was considerate of others, clearing away the plates and glasses that were in a hurry, taking other people's orders, and so on. Shortly after exchanging contact information, Naoki and I started dating. I was 25 years old at the time. After dating for 10 years, I married Naoki. Naoki was a kind person, but that was the flip side of being indecisive. I had somehow thought that we would get married by the time we were about 30. But that prediction was completely wrong. After I turned 30, I tried to refrain from saying anything that might hint at marriage because it would make Naoki angry. In the end, we finally got married after seeing Misaki. Still, I remember that the moment he proposed to me was the happiest I'd ever been. However, our marriage from then on was far from happy. After giving birth to Misaki, I returned to work, but Naoki did not participate in childcare and I was almost the only one doing it. Not only did he not participate, Naoki would come home drinking almost every night. Of course, he would usually come home on the next day. He would often be away on weekends for various reasons. Naoki had never changed Misaki's diapers. Of course, he didn't know how hard it was to make a bed or how much effort it took to get her to sleep. Naoki probably didn't know the surprise when she stood up for the first time or the joy when she spoke for the first time. He was a father who had no interest in his own children. That's why Misaki never nodded to Naoki since she was a child. Naoki didn't seem to mind that either. His gentlemanly behavior and kindness that he had when they first met had disappeared. It was only then that I finally realized. Naoki wasn't even good at making decisions. He just didn't want to give up his single life and get married. So why did he marry me? This is also a simple answer. He didn't want to deal with the consequences of pregnancy or hesitation. Naoki has always taken the easy way out. Even his behavior at the drinking party was probably because he thought about his outward appearance and chose the easy way out. Maybe he thought it would be too much trouble to even refuse to date me. I was fooled by that, but in a way, you could say that Naoki has a strong will. It was a value system that was of no use to our family, but Naoki's lifestyle didn't change even as he grew up. Naoki never participated in any of the events at nursery school or elementary school. He had given up all the joy of being a parent and not being present at his daughter's milestones. As a result, Misato and Naoki have always had a dry relationship. Naoki didn't say anything when Misa passed the entrance exam for Migaden. Misa and Misaki said that her father has always been like that, so it was fine and they didn't seem to mind. I'm sure Misa has never been spoiled by Naoki. Naoki has never loved Misa either. Naoki was too lazy to become a father. I'm sure that's all there was to it. My father is great. My father died of illness when I was in junior high school, but I still remember that he was a loving person. From a young age, no matter how busy he was with work, he always showed up at events like sports days and classes. When I drew 2 faces for my father's birthday, he cried, shaking his big body. I think he was a father with a lot of small worries. After becoming a junior high school student, he sometimes treated his father like a little bit of a bad dog. It was the middle of the 4th puberty, a time when children tend to rebel against their parents. I became strangely stubborn and could no longer be honest with my father's love. I was a difficult girl, even though I was cracked. My father still made minerals for me and bought me my favorite magazines, and did not give up on communicating with me. I didn't feel bad about it, but I still couldn't be honest with him. I ended up giving him cold replies and was not able to do things like I did when I was a child. Then my father got sick and passed away. I can't clearly remember the last conversation I had with him. I regretted it so much. I only just realized that I loved my father so much that I regret it. My father suddenly disappeared from the everyday life that I thought would always be there. I can't stop the tears from flowing. It seems that my older brother, Keizo, was the same. Keizo was also in a rebellious mood and often got into shouting matches with my father, but no matter what the fight, my father never scolded Keizo without thinking. He would always listen to what Keizo had to say and then express his opinion to try to reconcile them. They were both so stubborn that they were almost parallel, but it seems that Keizo felt love for them in that way. My brother and sister huddled together and cried loudly. After my father's funeral, my mother, Yoshino, raised us on her own. Gasan works a full-time job and also does night shifts. He says he wants to increase your future options, but no matter how hard he is treated, he never gives up. I think he is a really strong person. Seeing my mother like that, my brother Keizo started working after graduating from high school to support the family. He started working at a local factory. 3 years later, he worked for a company with a senior colleague. I don't know the details, but he seems to make high-quality precision parts. This was a great success, and now he works not only in Japan, but overseas. He is so busy that he rarely comes back to Japan, but he sometimes contacts me to ask how I am. Thanks to my mother and brother Keizo, I was able to attend university without any problems and attend a school cafeteria. I can't thank them enough. The 6 LDK house that my father built in Mizumai is spacious and filled with my father's attention to detail and memories. It is an old house, but the foundation is solid, so it won't break even on stormy days. After Keizo went overseas, my mother and I lived together, but Naoki, who was thinking about getting married, started living with us. Since Naoki first came to Tokyo, he was often harsh towards me because he was the owner of the store. His attitude was as if he was telling me not to make things more difficult. I often endure it because it is troublesome to argue with Naoki. Gasan has been suffering from a disease of the arterial line for 3 years, and he cannot speak well and his hands shake, so he has difficulty writing. It was difficult at first, but as I took care of him every day, I was able to understand his feelings just by his facial expressions. His daughter Misa also visits his mother's room every day and talks about the events of the day. Naoki has no interest in his mother and hardly tries to get involved with her. He must be a depressing person. Recently, rings and other accessories have been disappearing frequently from his mother's room. Most of them were gifts from the governor when he was alive, and I can't bear to see how cheerful my mother is. They were things that my mother treasured along with her memories. Since they disappeared so many times, I installed a webcam for care. After that, although people would come and go from my mother's room, her accessories never disappeared. When I asked Naoki, he said it must be Misaki. She said she's become more attractive recently. Even if Shimisa is the culprit, she won't be guilty because we're family members living together. He said that and laughed. Let's eliminate the mystery here. I suspect Naoki. There are several reasons for this suspicion. He's lazy and indifferent to his family. He's a heavy drinker who never goes home and doesn't look after them. If I were to list all of Naoki's anachronistic low-class feelings in this day and age, there would be no mistaking them. However, his biggest flaw is that he's careless with money. He's a hopeless spender. If I keep quiet, he'll drink up almost all of my salary and turn it into alcohol. Before we got married, I thought he was a very generous man because he dressed everything himself, but I'm angry at how much I've been drinking recently. In addition, he's very proud and shows off, so he tends to like classy things. All of his suits for work are made to order by luxury brands. I don't know how much he spends on a daily basis, but he has everything from his wallet to his wallet. Moreover, he often comes home with his expensive suits and other brand name items in tatters after a flood. Come to think of it, he often loses the scarves and watches I gave him as gifts. He probably doesn't have the sense to take care of the things he buys. To make matters worse, Naoki has always had a tendency to shaky hands. One day, Naoki had a rare party at his house, inviting friends over. The voices of drunk people are louder than necessary and reach your ears whether you like it or not. Naoki borrows money from many people and defaults on it. In particular, he said that a senior from his high school days had started a business and was in trouble, so he cried and borrowed 2 million yen, but he hasn't paid it back even once. I couldn't believe my ears when Naoki spoke like a martial arts legend. He would keep ignoring the senior's calls and would persist until he gave up. The senior was a big guy, like a fighter. He started a business at a young age, and was a passionate and powerful senior who was trusted by the local people. The house was filled with the starry voice of the senior who was crying out in the heat. Naoki couldn't remember his name, but for some reason he boasted that he was a senior he never wanted to meet. I had never heard of such a thing. And I felt ashamed that such a person was my husband. I wanted to find him and bring him in front of me right away. I couldn't be impressed by what happened that day, so I waited for him to sober up and confronted him. However, even though I yelled at him, asking him what he was thinking of defaulting on his debt, Naoki held his arm and didn't feel sorry at all, saying that it couldn't be helped because he had no money. But I couldn't back down. This was a serious problem for our family. If I continued to overlook Naoki's reckless spending like before, it could become irreparable. I insisted that I should let him manage all of his finances from now on. Naturally, Naoki did not readily agree. We argued so much that I almost died, but I am now managing the house on the condition that I give him 100,000 yen a month as pocket money. Honestly, I thought it was too much pocket money compared to the average, but it was much better considering how things had been going up until then. I was also getting a salary, so I was able to stretch out to a certain extent. Honestly, the word divorce had crossed my mind many times at this point. However, I didn't want to cause any more trouble to my mother, who lives with me. If I got divorced, my mother would surely worry more than necessary. I had somehow been put off divorce, feeling a bit put off. Besides, we were a couple for many years. It's not that I didn't have any feelings for her. And I couldn't leave such a messy person alone now. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that it was not worth the divorce. After I started managing him, Naoki's bad habits calmed down for a while, and he rarely went home drinking. However, recently Naoki has started staying up until the morning again. Every time I tried to stop Naoki, he explained that he was a customer, so he was doing it after overtime work, and that he was not paying for it. I didn't pursue it deeply, thinking that the suspicion was within the range of pocket money. What was bad was that Naoki was messing around. He would come home noisily without me even in the middle of the night and fall asleep in the entrance, which was annoying. I carried Naoki to bed many times, enduring the smell of alcohol. I wonder how many times it had happened. One day, I noticed something was wrong. There were more expensive clothes in Naoki's room. Looking more closely, there were also more new suits. It wasn't just one suit. There were 5 or 6 suits I didn't recognize. It was clearly suspicious. Even if he hadn't paid for the drinking table himself as Naoki said, the amount was too much for his monthly allowance of 100,000 yen. I thought he might have used his credit card, but I managed the withdrawal course. I haven't found any strange withdrawals even after going back several months. Could it be that he's borrowing money without me knowing? I decided to ask Naoki directly because it would have 100% likely to lead to a fight. When I told him about Naoki's spending habits, my mother's expression distorted and she looked sad. I wouldn't miss that change. Mom, what's wrong? When I asked her, she took her time and tried her best to tell me in a voiceless voice. It was unbelievable and I was greatly encouraged. According to my mother, Naoki visited her several times a month and asked for money. The details were always different. Emmy asked me to pay for the gas stove, but I don't have any cash and I have to pay for Mino's lessons by tomorrow. A contractor came to do maintenance on the house and I have to pay cash on the spot. He took advantage of my mother's kindness like this and was untrustworthy of money every time. I can't believe it. I can't believe he was such a terrible person. All the payments that Naoki ignored were paid by credit card, so there was no need to be cheerful. In other words, he was deceiving my mother. My mother was happy to see Naoki's attitude, which was usually indifferent but always kind at times like this, and she ended up giving him the money. She felt happy because she felt that Naoki recognized her as a family member. Tears welled up in my eyes when I saw my mother apologizing to me in an apologetic voice. At the same time, a strong anger towards Naoki welled up from the bottom of my stomach. Don't apologize, mother. There's nothing to worry about. I'll take care of it. I laughed as hard as I could, but I couldn't soften my mother's expression. I can't forgive him. I will never forgive Naoki for hurting my mother. That night, I confronted Naoki when he returned home to confirm the facts. He was unusually not drunk today. It was convenient. At first, Naoki was put off by my anger, but he soon changed to his usual annoyed expression. That must be a lie from your mother, Naoki said without any remorse. I don't think there's any reason for your mother to lie like that. When I argued back, Naoki laughed. Keihaku meant to belittle the other person. Because you're going senile, aren't you? You have to. There's no reason for such a senile old man to say that. I desperately tried to hold back from grabbing Naoki right away. Mom is not senile. It's true that she needs care now and communication is sometimes difficult, but she has normal abilities. Anger wells up inside me at Naoki's petty attitude, which makes me assume that nursing care equals dementia. This revealed how little Naoki cares for my mother. When we got married, I was happy that Emmy's house was so big, and I had thanked my mother many times that I was happy to be able to live with her, but that wooden bridge was just a facade. No, it was all just a way to curry favor for money. My mother is not senile. She just needs nursing care because she is suffering from some illness and cannot move. She is a meticulous person, so she has a detailed note of when and how much she gave you. Moreover, she wrote the situation at the time in shaky letters with her crippled hand. I feel sad every time I see it. Even though she said that, I felt an impulse to scream at this man to stop messing around. That old lady, you're doing something unnecessary. Naoki said, distorting his face. I couldn't believe that these were words to be spoken to a family member. From there, the conversation didn't go well. No matter what I said, Naoki didn't answer. I grabbed Naoki's shoulders to say the story was over, but he shook me off forcefully. Naoki completely ignored me and packed some random things in a bag and left the house. 3 days have passed since then, but Naoki has not returned even once. I don't feel like worrying, but I am curious. Where on earth is Naoki staying? Then the smart book rang. I jumped at the name. It was Suji's mother. Emmy, it's been a while. I didn't like my mother. No, maybe it's not that. I don't like the relationship between Naoki and his mother. When I went to greet Naoki about his marriage, Naoki was already 36 years old. In the general public's eyes, he is already a respectable adult. But his mother spoiled Naoki as if he were a 10-year-old child. She called the 36-year-old man Naoki-chan and said things like, "I made a mineral hamburger today." To be honest, I was taken by surprise. And when she met me for the first time, her mother asked me this. "How much do you earn a year?" Looking back, I can see that this child is a good match for his parents. From there, I heard it was a mansion, but I was bombarded with questions that are not appropriate for someone I met for the first time, such as what size it was, and what kind of gambling I like, even though my hobby is pachinko. I was so tired that I was exhausted by the time I got home. I've been a mother ever since. I've been a mother ever since. Is something wrong with your mother? I asked my mother timidly. There's nothing wrong with you, you know. You're a terrible wife for putting Naoki through this. You caught a middle-aged man, 56 years old, and still have sex with Naoki. I think your mother was 79 years old. Suddenly, I felt a chill run down my spine. You only give him a small amount of money, but you don't let him drink Naoki's favorite alcohol. You're a demon for joining your mother in blaming her unilaterally. A demon. It seems that Naoki has gone back to his parents' house. His mother seems to have heard unilateral complaints from Naoki. I wanted to argue, but I didn't have the energy. To be honest, I was mentally exhausted by the past few days. My husband cheated on my mother, and when I pointed it out, he came to my house and my mother's attack over the phone was too intense. I just let it go and ended the call. But it didn't end there. After that, my mother started calling me almost every day. It seems that Naoki complains about me to her mother every day. My mother would constantly blame me for it. I was going crazy. I'm sure your house is spacious. It's nice. I'd like to live there too. But I don't want to live with your mother. I wonder if you'll leave soon and make a room available. One day, my mother said this, looking strangely good-tempered. I think it was an insult that belittled my mother's existence. What kind of thought process would make such words come out? What do they think of other people's mothers? I hung up the phone without thinking and blocked her calls. I didn't know what it was, but I felt like I would go crazy if I didn't do that. After that, Naoki spent all his time at his parents' house and didn't go home for days. To be honest, I was relieved from the stress of everyday life and felt calm. It was probably a peace I hadn't felt in about 20 years. A relaxed time spent with only my beloved family. That's right. This is what the house I spent my time with my father was like. Misa says she's feeling refreshed now that her father, who drinks all the time, is gone. Laundry for a devil's dog. She even jokes that we should sell our father's branded goods now. Mom seems to be vaguely referring to Naoki's departure. At first, she looked sad, but she seemed somehow happy to see us looking calm and happy. Maybe I just wanted to feel that way, but about a month later, the situation suddenly changed. It was a very rainy night. Mom's condition stopped getting worse. Just like when my father was, I was hit with regret. I wanted to do more for her. In particular, the matter of the disappearance of the items that were a memento of my father has not been resolved. No matter how I thought about it, Naoki was suspicious, but I prioritized the current peace and put it off. If I had asked her more seriously, would Mom be okay? She called out to me, so I did. Apparently, I had been sitting on the tatami mat for hours. Mom, I'll do anything. If you don't want to, I'll contact Dad. Misa said that. She seemed worried about me. Even though she was my daughter, she was really considerate of other people's feelings. Thank you, Misa. But it's okay. This is something that Mama has to do. I'm sure everything will change from this contact. I have to reveal all the things I've been putting off. Yes, I had a premonition and called Naoki to tell him about my mother. Good, good. He finally went. It was really unexpected. Kaiko number 1. Naoki said that. He didn't seem to feel any pain for his wife's parents. This was something I had been turning a blind eye to until now. Naoki doesn't understand other people's feelings at all. He has never thought about how the other person feels because of what he says. He has no interest. That's why he can say such things. Such heartless words to my wife who just lost her mother. I almost reflexively hung up the phone. Anger and sadness swirled around in my chest. It seemed that even after all this, I still had high hopes for Naoki. The way he was when we first met was not a lie. In reality, he is a person with a kind heart somewhere. I am astonished at Kunagata. Mom. Misaki hugged me without saying anything. I guess I naturally started crying. I couldn't decide what was overflowing from my heart and turned into tears. The next day, Naoki still didn't show up. I had expected it somehow, but the feeling of emptiness spread. Is M's husband not coming? Keizo asked me hesitantly. It had been 25 years since I met Keizo in person. He returned to Japan as soon as I told him about my mother's illegality. He seems to have hardly slept because of his own differences, but he has been by my side the whole time. He took on the role of the model and handled the meetings with the venue. He is a really reliable brother. I'm sorry, Keizo. I should be here. But I don't want to contact you anymore. I told Keizo. There's no need to apologize. Did something happen? I told Keizo everything as if I had hung up the table. I told him everything that had happened up until now, about Naoki's reckless spending and bad yelling habits, how he had cheated my mother out of money, and how he had defaulted on debts to acquaintances in the past. I couldn't stop the words from spilling out. I ended up using rough language along the way. I guess I was relieved to meet Keizo-san. I wanted to let out everything I had been holding back. I lost my beloved mother and my husband who should have been my ally at the same time. Can you show me a picture of Emi-san's husband? Keizo-san asked me. Come to think of it, Keizo has never met Naoki. They didn't even have a wedding because Naoki opposed it, saying it would be a waste of money. Keizo-san had been so busy that he had hardly been able to return to Japan. Keizo-san didn't know what Naoki looked like. I looked back through the photos on my smartphone to find a photo of Naoki. Come to think of it, we haven't taken a photo together since we got a smartphone. Come to think of it, we've never traveled together. Naoki is hardly in my memories. I was having trouble finding a photo of Naoki, and Misa, unable to bear it, handed me the screen. This is one I took a while ago. My dad is drunk and asleep, but I was studying for my exams so I got mad. I just took the photo. Misa told me this with a frown. It seems that she is disgusted by her father's pathetic appearance. I thought so. Keizo's brother sighed after closing his eyes once. Emi, I know this guy. From there, I was enthralled by the episode Keizo told me. I never thought that Keizo and Naoki had a connection. Emi, leave the matter with you. Actually, there was something I wanted to consult you about. That's just right. The content of what I wanted to consult you about was also surprising to me. Misa was really happy and was pleased with the completion. It seems that the situation is not bad. I decided to break up with Naoki in order to repay my mother for all she has done. Yes. After doing this and deciding to divorce, I will contact Naoki first. However, no matter how many times I call, I can't get through. I have no choice but to contact Naoki's workplace, but I'm told that he just quit his job. He quit just before the retirement age. What on earth is Naoki thinking? After Suya, while Masaki and I are taking a break, the intercom suddenly rings. When I open the front door, it's the moving company. They say, "Sorry to keep you waiting," with lots of luggage. I thought no one was waiting, so I was arguing with the man from the moving company, thinking that I had come to the wrong place, when Naoki comes into the front door with his mother. From today, this will be my home. Great. It's a little shabby, but it suits me. My mother, who is the most diplomatic, says with satisfaction. Shabby
is an unnecessary word no matter how you look at it. I don't even want to see your face anymore. Open your room quickly. If you don't like it, I'll get a divorce. Mom and Naoki are about to go in because Mom's room is open. Misa trembles as she sees them and says, "Dad, don't you know anything yet? It seems like you're waiting for me." It's no wonder. After hearing the story of Karuzo-san, The scene must have been very dignified. Bar died, so what happened to the inheritance? How much is my share? Naoki continues to speak without paying any attention to me or Misaki. I can't believe it, Dad. My father looked astonished. Of course, I was astonished too. Naoki also seemed to be taken aback by his daughter's words. But he doesn't try to stop the conversation. Stop with my share. There's no way there is such a thing. From mother's point of view, Naoki, who is her daughter's spouse, has no preferential rights to the family. Naoki is not useless, and there is her eldest son, Karuzo-san. Naoki was also pointed out as a whip. Shut up. That's right. There must be a will. Naoki says that to me and confronts me. I took care of him so much. That old lady must have left something for me. Of course. What kind of thought process is he having? I took care of him. Because I thought he was already completely wiped out, but Naoki's stock is not stopping. It is still plummeting. The will only mentions me and Misaki. The only other people written were my brother. Of course. He was so uninterested in caring for my mother. No matter how good my mother is, it's impossible. I doubt his nerve to be so confident and write a will. You're kidding me, right? I quit my job because I got my mother's inheritance. Naoki finally seems to have started to understand the situation. It seems that he was after Naoki's reason to quit eating. What is this man really thinking? Who cares about you? Because this is Naoki's house. Emi-san, let's get to the trouble later and let me in quickly. I'm tired. Mom says that to Nanki. Sorry, but it's none of my business whether you're tired or not. Is it okay, Mom? The name of this house is not Naoki-san's. It has been inherited by my brother from my mother. I told Naoki and the others that fact. You haven't shown your face even once since we got married. What, are you back? As I mentioned earlier, Karuzo and Naoki haven't seen each other since I married him. Even though we haven't met, Naoki has always called Keizo a fool, calling him a helpless man. He seems to suspect that the fact that he's successful in overseas business is a lie. He also seems to think that my brother is a weak man. He's scared of someone like me who lives life to the fullest, so he's even said that he's never come here before. I told Naoki that Keizo will be coming soon, so if he has a problem, he can meet him and talk. I had given a signal to the other person to call him. Naoki looks relaxed. He's probably making a decision to persuade Karuzo. It's true that if Naoki imagines his brother to be a weak one, he might be able to get away with something like that. But that's not going to happen. Keizo comes to the house, writing down the moving company that is wondering what's going on. As soon as Naoki sees Karuzo, he trembles and loses his balance. He's a senior. Why?
Naoki doesn't seem to understand. Hey, Naoki. Otto has been a big help to me. but it brings back memories. Hey, how long has it been since I lent you money? Naoki is silent with his mouth open. His eyes are constantly wandering. To hide it, Keizo was the senior that Naoki most wanted to meet, the one who had defaulted on his debts. Unlike me, Keizo inherited his father's humble physique. It seems that Karuzo lent money to various juniors at the time, but I had never heard of Keizo lending money to anyone. I never thought that one of them was my husband. Karuzo has decided to base his work in Japan from next month. To finish it off, I told Naoki that I had come back to live with Keizo's wife and 5 children. The oldest child is a graduate student and the youngest is in kindergarten. I want him to learn many things in his hometown, his roots. Naoki's face paled in an instant. Mom was unable to keep up with the situation. Well, there's probably some things you want to talk about. Naoki, I want to ask you something too. Let's talk inside. Keizo-san smiled, but his eyes were not smiling at all. Naoki seemed to have given up and muttered, "Yes," in a thin voice. The traders were asked to leave the house, and the meeting was held inside. Mom was yelling something, but when Naoki asked her to keep quiet, she reluctantly got louder. At the beginning, Keizo-san said that he would not accept it if she lied, so the mediation proceeded smoothly. Some answers were confirmed. As expected, it was Naoki who stole Mom's accessories. Mom told Suya that the neighbor's father's shop had come to sell various things at a time like this. Later, he remembered that it was something Mom had been wearing, and it had been bothering him for a long time. When he told Naoki about it, he readily confessed. The reason was that he wanted something he could use freely. Because I started to manage the money, Naoki could no longer use it freely, and he began to steal my mother's accessories to keep them captive. Soon after, cameras were installed, and it became difficult to steal the accessories, so he began to scam her out of her money. Naoki said this with almost no change in expression. He was scared of Keizo-san, but he showed no signs of remorse or regret. He seemed to think that it couldn't be helped. It seems that a monthly allowance of 100,000 yen does not satisfy this man's desires at all. I'm at my wit's end. There's really nothing I can do about this man. I also know that Naoki had taken out the couple's savings passbook without permission, which we had been saving little by little. After what happened with my mother, I thought maybe he would, so I installed a camera in my room. There is a video of Naoki taking out the passbook many times. Even so, I couldn't confront Naoki. I guess he didn't want to admit that he had been betrayed. I should have thought more about Naoki's words when he laughed and said that it wouldn't be a crime because we were family living together. If I had brought it up at that time, I would have somehow managed to pick up the head I was holding and face Naoki. I can't live with such a person. Please leave, I said and handed the divorce papers to Naoki. From then on, we had a bit of a fight. Naoki refused to give up on the situation, but he refused. He was so scared of Keizo that he complained only to me. Naoki refused to give up on this house, so I jokingly suggested that he live with Keizo. Naoki shook his head and refused. Then his mother started crying, saying that such arrogant people were not worthy of Naoki, and started making a fuss about divorce. That was the end of the night. Naoki was taken aback by the sudden appearance of the tragic heroine, but in the end, he was forced by his mother to sign the divorce papers. His mother had already completed the procedure to cancel the lease on her house after one drink this month. It seems that she continued the cancellation the moment she found out that his mother had died. They are really similar parents and children. He doesn't understand other people's feelings, he is greedy for money, and he is very opinionated. I temporarily returned my mother's belongings to her original house and decided to look for a new place to live. I hurriedly asked the landlord to renew the contract, but I couldn't because there was already a guest waiting to move out. I think it was a wise decision for the landlord. No one wants to have such a troublemaker. Apparently my mother had been telling the neighbors that she was going to be a celebrity who was moving into a mansion soon. On this occasion, she seemed to have taken the upper hand in the neighbors and made very derogatory remarks such as "I'm a different class than poor people, I'm high." However, since she returned right after moving, rumors spread quickly and she was accused of being a sauce by the neighbors. The mouth is the worst thing. Naoki was found guilty of misappropriating our shared property and of problematic behavior that called into question his character, and he was not granted most of the property he claimed at the time of the divorce settlement. Well, that's only natural. To be honest, my top priority was to never have to deal with Naoki again, so money was secondary, but I wouldn't give him anything that didn't need to be given. Karuzo-san soon moved to Japan and started working at the headquarters building in his hometown. I wasn't really aware of it, but Karuzo-san seems to be a hero in his hometown and has a lot of hidden power. Naoki became famous in a bad way for not cutting off the debt to Keizo-san, and he couldn't work in this area at all. Naoki, who was in a difficult position, once visited Keizo-san's company and offered to pay off the debt. I don't know how he was planning to pay it off. He probably had no idea. It was probably an act of righteousness. If he paid back even 1 yen of the debt, he would be in the process of paying it off. That would be better than now. The public's criticism might weaken. I think that's what he was thinking. But he failed to meet him. Naoki. That debt is a matter of more than 20 years ago. I'm satisfied with it as a learning experience. You don't have to pay it back, so don't show your face again. Keizo-san told him firmly. Naoki also left without saying anything more to Keizo-ni-san. This action seems to have made Naoki's life even more cramped and he is rushing to make ends meet. He now rents a small apartment with his mother and lives on part-time work. The inheritance of Tora Ranu Tanuki's Kawayama has disappeared like a dream, and now he regrets his early retirement. I heard that they are yelling at each other every day and can't stand the fights. Their arguments are so intense that they have received complaints from the neighbors and are on the verge of being evicted from their current apartment. Apparently, the two of them are so broke that someone has seen them picking wild plants in the river. It's all their own fault. There is no room for a dojo. Masaki and I lived with Keizo Ni-san for a while, and then we started living together in an apartment. These are assets that our mother left for us when she was alive. She was a busy person before she got sick. I really admire her for doing things like this. When the commotion calmed down, Karuzo Ni-san brought me a lot of accessories as a present. When I looked closely, they were memories of my mother. Apparently, they bought what was left from my father. I was so happy I could jump. I was able to get back what I had regretted, although not all of it. Since then, I have been having a barbecue with my brothers Karuzo and visiting my mother's grave together, and we have been having fun together. Masaki also seems unable to hide her joy at the presence of her uncle whom she had not been able to see for many years and her cousins who suddenly appeared. After graduating from college, Masaki got a job at a nursing home. For Masaki, the days with my mother are a memory without a shadow, and it seems that this was the deciding factor in her career decision to help people who need more care. I'm sure my mother is happy in heaven. I'm sorry for causing you so much worry at the end, but I can't help but hope that my mother has reunited with my father over there and is now living a peaceful and happy life.